Yep, I see it now. And I believe it's 7 o'clock. Chairperson Bill.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 16th meeting of the Town of Brighton Planning Board. This is a live virtual meeting, and as such, we will be inviting folks to participate via either Zoom or whatever platform you are on. We will be hearing several hearings tonight. Several have been postponed to our October meeting, and we will let you know which of those they are. I would like to start. Many of you may be able to see the names of our board members, but I'd like to introduce the board. We have Laura Civiletti, Jason Babcock Steiner, John Osowski, Pam Delaney, David Fader, and tonight we are missing James Wentworth. He is absent tonight. We will be doing a roll call, but I did want to introduce the board members to everybody. A little bit of a shortened agenda from what was published tonight due to some postponements. Again, we will ask the individual applicants to make a brief statement about their application, go through the mechanics of the site plan and the approvals that they are seeking. The board will then have the ability to ask the applicant and their representatives any questions. And then as we open up the public hearing, we will ask individuals interested in talking about a project to raise their hand. My understanding, the raise hand function is either in the participants window at the bottom of your screen or the reactions window. If for some reason neither of those work for you, just wave your hands frantically and Jeff Fritsch or Ramsey Boehner will look to help you. And I apologize, I did not mention Jeff and Ramsey, both with the town, and our planning board attorney is David Dollinger. David is on as well. And we are being recorded by Rhoda Collins. So let us begin with a roll call. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll for tonight?
Member Osowski.
Here.
Babcock Steiner.
Here.
Delaney.
Here.
Civiletti.
Here.
Fader.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Absent is Wentworth.
Thank you. Was everybody able to receive and open the August 19th meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay. I will accept a motion to approve those unless somebody has edits or revisions.
John
I'll move to
Osowski.
approve.
Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
Yeah, basically, I noticed that it said that the starting time was 7:30, and I believe we started around 7:05, right on the front cover page. That's the only correction I have.
Okay, we have a motion with an edit. Was there a second?
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Ramsey, will you call the roll, please?
Member Price.
Yes.
Fader.
Here.
Civiletti.
I
Delaney.
was absent last month.
You abstain?
Yep.
Babcock Steiner. Osowski.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, can you confirm that tonight's public hearings were properly advertised?
Yes, the public hearings were properly advertised in the Brighton Pittsburgh Post of September 10th, 2020.
Thank you. We will hear those. Let me just, for the audience, tell you the applications that are postponed until our October 21st meeting. That includes 8P01-20, the application of John Greer for preliminary and final site plan approval at 2171 West Henrietta Road. Application 8P02-20, application of Pastro Associates, agent for New Monroe Real Estate LLC for site plan modification at 2816 Monroe Avenue. Application 8P03-20, application of Pastro Associates, agent for RFM Morgan Properties for a site plan modification at 2125 Monroe Avenue. Those three are postponed till October. As is under new business, 9P NB1-20, the application of the Baptist Bible Temple and Clover Park Properties for the application at 1075 Clover Street. That said, now the first application up tonight is 9P01-20, application of Nicholas Leonardo, owner for site plan modification and woodlot EPOD permit modification to remove additional trees for the purpose of constructing a new home on the property located west of the intersection of Clover Street and Greenaway Road. Is there anybody here to represent Nicholas Leonardo?
I see Nicholas's phone. I'm going to unmute him.
Already asked them for empty.
What's that? You got him? And maybe Greg McMahon or G. McMahon.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the call, Nick Leonardo, and also Greg McMahon, and also Josh Galey, our arborist, who prepared the documents for tonight's meeting.
Okay. Nick, would you just give us a brief background? Maybe Greg can help you out with what the original approval was and why the modifications at this point.
So we were already approved back originally last year for our site plan, and then we had a ZBA, and then we moved the house, and then we had a modification, and it was then reapproved at that time. We, in the meantime, have changed builders. We're going with Sortino Properties, and upon examining the property with the excavating team, as well as the engineer, as well as the builder, we felt that there was going to be a larger impact to some of the surrounding trees. And if you look at the report that Josh prepared, those would be the category 1 trees that would have a larger impact that are immediately surrounding the house. Then in addition to some of the other trees, I know there are some additional trees that are kind of decaying on the property. You can see that, and Josh can talk a little bit more about that. And within that, there are some trees in the lot that are just very, very large. And we just felt that, you know, by looking at the rest of the neighborhood, the average trees in the yards and the houses are about 2 to 3 trees per house. And in the original site plan, we would have about 90 trees on our property. So it really doesn't fit the rest of the neighborhood, as well as some other concerns like hazard and decaying trees and things of that nature. We thought it would be better for us to remove these trees and plant new trees and to just have a more landscape property that is going to be more fitting with the neighborhood and safer for us and for the environment. And Josh could probably talk a little bit better on the trees themselves.
Yeah, go ahead. Apologies.
No, please go ahead, Josh.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. And yeah, I examined and assessed Mr. Leonardo's property. I believe there's about 120 trees overall, and they're looking to remove around 91. My report shows that about 49 trees were pretty objectively ready for removal, either in a place where the building will be, or showing decay, or structural issues, or will be disturbed as they're closer than, say, 10 feet to the house. So the remaining trees, there's definitely more subjective opinion on that, but without a tree protection plan in place, excuse me, the construction can definitely disturb those trees. There's two large black walnuts that are good examples that, they are not known to survive construction well. They're large, and after the construction, they'll be more exposed than they are currently, and more subject to wind throw. So, some trees tolerate construction well, even though it looks like they may not. But speculation that they will show stress and decline is not unusual. And replanting, I think, is a more sure way to have healthy, sound trees, and again, match the neighborhood with more attractive landscape trees, rather than what are a lot of secondary growth trees, invasive trees like Norway maple and mulberry. So again, there's definitely arguments for some of these trees, and ultimately, I think applying the appropriate town codes will be the best guidance.
Josh, could you just give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah. So I'm a board certified master arborist. Been practicing arboriculture for over 20 years. Moved to the area about a year ago with my family. My wife is from the area. Previous to working here and starting my business as a consultant, I supervised tree work in Central Park for the Central Park Conservancy. And so, it's a park with 40 million visitors a year, and roughly 20,000 trees. Risk was our number one concern, and number two was tree preservation and the culture and history of the park. So that's still how I apply my practice. So I definitely don't look to remove trees, but my experience is also that with infrastructure and conflicts, it's, unless you've got a really special tree or a unique habitat or environment, a lot of the times, and I believe this applies to Mr. Leonardo's place, there's a handful of nice oak trees. Beyond that, a lot of those trees, they're just kind of urban volunteer trees. And yeah, that has a place as far as habitat and ecology and, storm runoff and all the benefits of trees. But I think when building a house, trying to preserve these trees, which, as individuals aren't showing any really unique qualities and can be replaced, I think it's worth the discussion. So, right now I practice consulting arboriculture. I have my own business. I was living in Brighton for the first year, recently moved to Penfield, but we intend to stay. And my goal is definitely advocating for trees and their successful cohabitation with people in these areas.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate I just wanted to understand your professional background. So would you say that, you say that there's 49 trees that you, for reasons of which could be mostly structurally related, but if my math is anywhere near correct, it's telling us that there are 41 trees that are more subjective as far as what you're proposing to remove. Now, of those, can you tell me what the majority of those trees are? Are they majority all volunteer Norway maples?
Sure.
What, let's call it a mature hardwood forest trees are in there?
Sure. Okay. So just to get the numbers right, there's about 120 what we would call, large trees above a shrub or a sapling on the property. Mr. Leonardo would like to remove 91. So 49 we're, kind of, again, trying to be objective, primary removals, again, next to the building, in place of the building, that remains, 42 remain, and 26 are non-native and invasive, primarily Norway maple and white mulberry. So 26 of the 42. So that leaves, 16. And 11 of those trees are under 8 inches in diameter. So, not major trees. Most of the remaining trees, there's a grove of sassafras trees, but those are typically sharing a root system. A number of those have failed. Sassafras, they're not long-lived trees, and there's going to be work around them. And there's a few that are dead, which should be removed anyway. So when you're talking about a grove like that, selectively removing a number of individuals is not always a great practice. There's, I think, where is it? Probably what you might call the best trees. To the northeast, I think it's like removal number 10 and 11. Those are pretty nice red oaks. In here, I reference them and talk about how, according to International Society of Arboriculture Best Management Practices, the topsoil stockpile will impact their critical root zone. So, and that's the kind of thing where, if the stockpile is strictly adhered to and nothing accesses north of it, those trees will, they'll probably be okay. But in a construction zone and without a really strict tree protection plan, construction zones, they're trying to get work done, and that's kind of one of those things where, it raises concerns, and that's a challenge. It's pure speculation. And when Mr. Leonardo asked me to justify these, this is one where I told him I'm kind of on the fence. It's hard to know exactly how the construction will go. The trees are nice. But in addition, further landscaping, sometimes people put berms up along railroads, so that also comes into play, not just the strict construction of the building. There's the how the site will look afterwards. So, I fully agree that some of these trees are they're the guidelines I was given are a little bit gray, and I'm not trying to straddle Mr. Leonardo's interest and then my own, professional opinion. And these, I can clearly say, they could be stressed, but they might also be fine. So besides those, though, most of the others, there's a handful of Norway maples that are mature, but seeing the site and walking through it and trying to picture it, it's a lot of these trees just weren't trees I was going to chain myself to, if that makes any sense. So, this is, your process is new to me. I'm not so familiar with the forestry management plan and all the codes. Definitely, I definitely yield to you guys on that, but that's kind of where I'm at. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. I think, I guess, I'm gonna pass on to others to see if they have any other questions. Laura, do you have any questions about this?
No, I think specifically, are there any trees worth trying to preserve within that work area that's defined on the plan?
In my opinion, just the nicest tree, fortunately, was outside the work zone. It's a gorgeous red oak on the northwest corner. The oaks are what would be, what I would call the most worthy of preserving. But again, they're going to be impacted. And I don't know how exactly, because I can't tell you where the backhoe is going to go. I can't tell you, those are along the north side. Those are what, the nicest looking trees, the most ecologically, most contributions, native trees, not invasive. Most of the rest of the trees are there, at least the ones that I didn't think were primary reasons for removal, objectively just ought to go. there's not a lot left. There's a there's actually one, it's one big black cherry that is in the right of way, which is a kind of a neat black cherry tree for what it's worth. So, but there's not a lot of trees in there that I really saw that didn't have a really objective reasons for removal that I thought, boy, that's a real shame that tree's going. You know, I think they can be replaced. I think better selections, you know, for landscaping value, for ecological value. And again, these trees, you know, without a real protection plan, looking at the critical root zone, you know, if they do die in a few years, it would be, you know, a challenge to get them out. You know, these are in the backside of the property, and, you know, so now does make sense, you know, as far as a practical standpoint. But you know,
Yeah, okay, but we do have the opportunity here to implement a protection plan if there are trees that should be protected.
So I guess I'm caught in the middle here. You know, I know Mr. Leonardo's preference, and you know, I probably would need just better objective guidelines, if that makes sense. Looking to a town code. I mean, I'm kind of at the end of the arguments I can make, because at this point it's my opinion versus Mr. Leonardo's opinion, and if I'm representing him, you know, there's that. So I guess does that make sense? I don't have a great answer for that.
Yeah, sure.
There's trees that are nice, but there's nothing that I look at and say, oh my God, how can they cut that down? And I am trying to keep a level head of an arborist, advocating for the trees, but also understanding that development is going to take place. And short of cordoning this area off and saying it is a park, or for lack of a better word, that, you know, removing and replanting when these trees probably, you know, will be disturbed. And even if their root zone is protected, removing the trees around, you're changing drainage patterns, you're changing the soil. You know, that stuff can still cause issues. And so I'm treading a line, and I hope I'm trying to find more objective reasons, and I don't have a good one way or the other.
So not trying to put you on the hook between yourself and the client, but I think we need to understand what's, you know, realistically practical to preserve here.
Okay.
Josh, did you review the approved plan by the planning board? Because what's happening here is the area disturbance. We did have a tree protection plan. All trees that were supposed to remain were supposed to be protected and fenced off with no construction activity, no stockpiling allowed in those areas. It seems as if the area of disturbance or the area of construction is expanding. Is that correct? I'm trying to understand why, when we first did this, we weren't told that when the construction of the house was going to be done, that was going to kill all these trees.
Well, Ramsey, just to point out, I mean, there's a lot of trees that were in the original site plan that were not marked for removal that are inside the area of disturbance. And I think to Josh's point, and he could correct me if I'm wrong, but even if you put plastic around a tree, I can't imagine that when there's a tree 10 feet from the house that the roots aren't going to be underneath that area. Some of these trees on the original site plan are very close to the house still, that were inside the construction zone originally, but not necessarily marked for removal. So I think that's kind of what Josh is saying, and he could correct me if I'm wrong. Now, when you get outside of the impacted zone, you know, that's where I think some of the speculation and some of the trees that are, you know, we're trying to remove come into play. One of my questions was, because I couldn't find this anywhere in the town code, what are the specific town codes in relation to removing trees on not a town property, but an individual's property? I got to imagine there are some guidelines set aside for residential properties and tree removal.
Yes, you would want to. And I was going to ask Josh, have you reviewed the town's environmental protection overlay district woodlot regulations, which cover this property?
I have not.
I have read them, but they do not, unless I can't find it, specify specifically what you're allowed or not allowed to remove. All that it says in the town's code is that it would have to be reviewed by the planning board and the conservation board.
And one of the things that they would look at is the condition, species, type of the trees. They'd also weigh into it, what are the mitigation plans for replacing the trees or restoring the woodlot?
Yeah.
It's how the EPOD regulations work. It's not a black and white regulations. It's at the discretion of the planning board.
Okay, that's what I was kind of wondering, because I know one of the other factors is obviously hazard and things of that nature, and I think, you know, it is up to you guys ultimately. I know this lot has been empty for a lot of years, and it has actually been kind of an area where people have thrown garbage. I've walked this lot many times. There's garbage, there's cinder blocks, there's kids' bikes. It's actually kind of a trash pit currently of stuff, and it's not been maintained by the town or anybody, let alone the right of way. There's falling trees. So I think our goal is to try to make the area look better. And if we have to plant trees to improve upon the overall landscape of the property, then we are open to doing that, because ideally we're moving to this neighborhood because we love the trees. Actually, it's one of the many reasons, but at the same time, I think we have to live in these conditions, and, you know, having 100 trees on a property just seems, you know, this is not a forested neighborhood. It's the regular subdivision. And many of the houses aren't forested. So I think if we can improve the current landscape, it would be a much better benefit, not only to us, but also to the town and the neighborhood and the neighbors.
How are the trees going to be removed?
I
Pardon?
didn't catch the first part of that question.
How are the trees going to be removed? Are each stump going to be grinded? Are the stumps going to be left? Are they going to be pulled out?
I think it was the intention to, well, I guess right now we haven't actually finalized what the plan is. I mean, if there's a recommendation from the town, I think we're definitely would be open to that. I know inside the construction area, they're going to pull all the stumps out. If we were able to pull them out, I'd prefer to do that. If not, and we had to grind them down, then if that's the best practice, we would have to do that. I mean, I guess that's going to be what you guys would recommend.
Well, we got to know what you're doing. You need to talk to your arborist, because what's starting to happen, and the concern from the engineering department, is that the area of disturbance is now greater than 20,000 square feet, and you're going to need a SWIP
Sure.
to be filed. And
Right.
the other thing is, when you did that, we're going to want to see a revised grading plan.
So
Your grading plan was very limited to what showing a change of grade.
So I do have another question, and maybe this would be best left for the planning board, but because this is a woodlot EPOD district, technically, if we did proceed with the current trees that are inside the current site plan, once the house and all construction is completed and the house has been final grade, what would be the process to then remove the trees later? Would we still have to go back through this process, or would we have to get a separate excavation plan with a revised site plan for an excavator to come out and remove the trees that are currently on this plan?
Because it's an EPOD, and within an EPOD district, you would have to come back. We could not use the excavation and clearing ordinance.
Okay, because that's,
it's in an EPOD. It's not. It's because it's an EPOD. Is the
I
reason that
understand.
is.
So yeah, I mean, I think preferably we would want to get the trees removed now. I mean, we're going through this process right now. Logically, it makes the most sense, and not to keep coming back to the town with changes and revisions. I mean, if it would keep us from having to do more excavation and not impact any more environmentals, I think grinding down the stumps would be probably a better, obviously a much better option. But again, I'd have to talk to the arborist and to the engineer and see if that's, if that's going to be the best option.
Could we hear from Greg McMahon on the grading of this?
Sure, Bill.
Greg.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate outside of the current grading plan. Again, I wouldn't anticipate any grading changes. It's my understanding that they're just trying to open up, expand the area around the house. We'd certainly take a look, but I wouldn't anticipate any grading outside of the area that we're currently shown as grading. Now, there would be disturbance certainly with the trees that are removed outside the grading limits, but that area would, whether they grind the stumps or pull the stumps would be, the topsoil be there, it would be restored as lawn.
Just back to existing grade.
Existing grade, yeah. It's a relatively flat site, as I'm sure you see on the grading plan. So I wouldn't anticipate, any changes in grade would be a matter of inches, not feet.
Okay. And Greg, is there any reason in your mind that that the approved tree protection plan from phase 1 couldn't apply to any new configuration of the limit of disturbance? We can that would apply to anything you.
Sure. Yeah. Certainly. There would be protection on any trees that would be jeopardized by the work, and I rely on I have not seen the arborist plan, but if certain trees were pointed out, we could certainly modify our protection plan to incorporate protection. Certainly, there are some trees that are so far away or are distant enough that aren't going to be an issue. But I wouldn't see a problem with that.
As far as stockpiling,
Yeah,
stockpiles can move to wherever it's most appropriate, and they're not going to, the movement of trucks over and compacting root zones where you're stockpiling can be relocated so they're out of the way of those trees.
Yeah, we can, again, I was not, when we located the stockpile up in that northeast corner, I'm not anywhere near a tree person here. I didn't consider that, but we can certainly relocate the stockpiles. I mean, as far as I think a lot of this was precipitated by the builder when he went out there and saw it. And what was to remain, I think he raised the first red flag saying, if I'm going to build this house, some of these trees that you're proposing to save are not going to survive. I just can't build the house and, run my equipment here and have the proper equipment to do the job. So that kind of started this whole thing.
Okay. Other board members have questions for the team?
I have a couple.
Please.
Greg, with the new house builder that's coming in, is there a significant change in the disturbed area from the original approved plan?
Well, I don't think that wasn't precipitated. We never, in preparing the plan, there was never a house builder input, giving us any input. So the change in builders had really nothing to do. A builder didn't get involved with going in the field and looking at this until after all the plans had been approved. So I don't think the change in builders had any impact at all on what we're now showing.
Well, let me ask it a different way. Has the disturbed area changed significantly from the original plan?
Well, yes, if you consider that removing trees is considered disturbance.
No, I'm not considering the removal of the trees. I mean the construction of the house, the area that's going to be disturbed by the construction of the house. Has that changed significantly?
Not significantly. Pushed it out a little bit where in some areas, but not significantly.
Okay. The other question is, how many trees were going to be removed in the original plan?
Right. I believe 31. I will quick check here. I can. I believe it was, there were 3 trees in the town right away and a total of 32 trees. So 3 in the town right away and 9 on the property.
Oh, here's the problem I have with this. You've tripled the amount of trees you're going to remove, even though the amount of disturbance is basically unchanged. So you don't need to triple it. And you knew going in on this project that you were in a woodlot. And so you say that the neighborhood isn't forested and that it's not a park. And that's true, but it was a woodlot. You knew it was a woodlot, and you know the town's thoughts on the woodlot. So I think the number of trees being removed is excessive. That's my opinion.
Well,
But
go ahead. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, my question was, going through the EPOD, the woodlot EPOD, the one thing I couldn't find, again, I'm a little out of my area here, was a definition of a woodlot. I've lived in a lot of towns where, they have woodlot EPODs, but there is a definition of what has to be in a woodlot to make it a woodlot. And I don't know, is there something in the town of Brighton, is there some definition the town uses to define
Yes.
trees or?
Yes, it's in the code. An area of 1 or more acres of vegetation, the majority of which is classified as woody plants, whose trunks are greater than 3 inches in diameter and height, 3 feet above ground, and whose full height reaches a maximum of 6 feet.
Yeah, I think, sorry to just kind
This
of.
isn't by parcel, this is by area.
Yes, by area. We found that out. I think that early on in the process that Greg and myself, even before I even purchased this lot, had no idea that this would be considered a woodlot because, Brighton's one of the few towns that has this in place, to my understanding. So when we originally went in, we didn't realize we wouldn't be able to remove some of these trees. And I think, and I understand what you're saying. It is a lot of trees, but again, it's still a residential property. And I think, subjectively, I understand your job is to protect the trees, but also I think you want to keep the look of the neighborhood in line with the rest of the neighborhoods. And if it's a park, then it's a park, or if it's a actual wood lot, somewhere that's in the woods, but it's not, it's in an old subdivision. So I just want you to keep in consideration that we're still keeping 30% of the trees, which is way more than anybody else in our entire neighborhood has. And if you've gone out there and looked at the quality of some of these trees, they just don't look good. They don't look like some of the parks and some of the other wooded lots around. It has not been well maintained or landscaped or anything. Even the town right away has trees that are falling down. So I just would like you to just try to consider what we're looking at for long-term and what we're trying to accomplish, and try to, improve the tree quality, not take away from the lot itself.
Other board members have questions or comments?
Were
Yeah.
any additional trees going to be removed from the right of way?
Pardon?
Well, are you proposing to remove any additional trees from the town right of way as part of this?
We are
The
not.
ones that you got approval for?
No, just the ones we have approval for. Basically, just to put in perspective, most of these trees are within about a 30-foot radius of the house. Our goal was to preserve as many trees within that radius as possible that wouldn't long-term impact the house and also overcast the house as well. Some of the dead and dying trees that are on the current list were not on the original list earlier, which is a chat that you and I had, Ramsey, about, a house in the neighborhood, had a dead tree fall on top of it. So, I think that was something we probably should have examined, any dead or dying trees earlier on, just to make sure there was nothing that could, fall in the future. But in addition, we want to preserve as many trees as possible, especially the ones that you're going to be able to see from the street, which is what we pretty much did with this plan. In addition, we were already planting trees, but we would like to plant more trees around the property to add better landscaping and to kind of keep the overall look again of the neighborhood. I don't think it's our goal to just kill trees. I think we just want to improve upon the look of the lot as well as the safety and the environmental.
Other board members? Jason, John?
Yeah, this is John. I have some comments. So is it reasonable for us to expect perhaps a comprehensive tree survey that identifies the species of each of these trees, an objective condition assessment of whether it's diseased and dying, and an old ash tree that needs to come out, and the size of these trees, and then gives us an objective recommendation from the certified arborist saying which ones should come out and which ones shouldn't? Because you look at this plan and you just see remove, 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 remove all over the place, you know, and let's say to the south side of the house, if there's a bunch of trees there that old Norway maples that should come out, and you've got those decent oak trees at the northeast corner, well, maybe you move the topsoil stockpile to the south side so that you can save those oak trees and not disturb them. It just looks like there hasn't been a lot of thought given to.
Has everyone on the board reviewed the arborist plans, the photos of the lot? We provided this to the town about 2 weeks ago. There's a full report already that's been done that the town should have had a chance to review.
I have not read that.
All right.
Yeah, I sent it to Ramsey as well as Rick, and so the conservation board could see this report. And you know, my frustration is before I even got a response, no one even reviewed the plan, and here we are at the meeting, and it still hasn't been reviewed by anyone. So I'm a little surprised that that information wasn't shared with the rest of the board. Because I think that was our intent, was to do a survey, take photos, show you guys without actually coming to the property to see, hey, here's what we're seeing. Here's the look. This is what's going on with the neighborhood. You know, we've gotten zero pushback from any neighbors whatsoever. They're actually very happy that someone's going to be landscaping this and making it kind of look better, because it's not in good condition at all. So I think if you had that report, you'd kind of see a little bit more detail of what we're trying to accomplish here.
There is a report that I got emailed to me back in August. The purpose of the report was that he was trying to make a case that they were exempt from the EPOD regulations.
No, I didn't say that we were for the EPOD.
How I reviewed it was to say you needed to go and submit an application for an EPOD permit because he was not considered exempt because the trees were not dead and dying.
Well, so, some of them are dead and dying, but the reason for the report is I just wanted to know what the next steps were. But part of this review is that we had this arborist report done prior to the board meeting, which we did do, and it's just now no one's even looked at it.
Yeah, just
Okay.
so the report included a list of all the trees, the sizes. It made note of what I called primary justification, again, dead within the footprint or within 10 feet of construction activity, and then some other factors as well. So, and it is a map that goes into greater detail than it bases it on the construction plan, but it X's out the trees that I thought were objectively worth removing, and discusses them, and there's pictures to give examples. So.
Number of the trees, it does not, it gives the type of tree, the size of the tree. It does not give the condition of the tree. It talks about a little bit of that most of the trees are going to be removed due to post-construction stress and decline.
And that's
I'll be glad to get this out to the members if you'd like to look at it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, please.
yeah. All right, John, you've asked. Jason, do you have other questions?
I just seconding what John and Laura just said.
Okay. All right. This one's a challenge, Ramsey. Let's send that out, send out that report.
We have neighbors that want to speak.
Yeah, let's open this up to the public. Do you have, is there anyone in the audience that cares to address this application? Kindly raise your hand.
I know Tom Hack wants to speak. He did contact us early. I'm gonna unmute him.
Please do.
Tom, are you there?
Eating a tree.
Can you guys see me and hear me?
I hear
Yes.
you.
Hear you.
Here you are.
Okay, I see you guys, I hear you guys, so hopefully you can hear me too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. First I want to say thanks to Nicholas for taking on this project. I mean, this is a complicated project for everyone. It's not an easy site. We all know that. So congratulations, Nicholas, for being on board and taking that. As far as the number of trees in the neighborhood, you know, I'm actually in my house right now, counting the trees in my neighborhood and looking out my windows, and the average tree is probably about 15 trees per lot. Myself, I got 25 trees on my lot. And our lots are nowhere as near as large as this. This is actually 3 lots combined. So, you know, if you look at that, you should really, you know, if you're judging a neighbor or from lot to lot to lot throughout the neighborhood, it's actually would be about like 54 trees is what you're probably looking at down on your end over there. One of the things too, I think you need to keep in mind as far as, you know, the neighborhood, you're within 200 feet of a federal wetlands, which is directly across the railroad from you. I know Mark Ford did a big extensive thing of preserving that. So you're talking about being close to a woodlands area. I think that's pretty important to keep in mind that while the neighborhood is a 1920 subdivision, there is a lot of wooded areas around us with 490, with the federal wetlands directly across from you. Literally, I walked through there today. I do take exception about the condition of the property. It's actually in pretty good shape, really. I mean, regardless of the trees, I mean, as far as like, there's very little garbage out there, very little. I walked through there today with my dog. Granted, you got a lot of like vegetation, a lot of leaves, vegetation, branches, old trees, stuff like that, natural destruction more or less. But as far as like garbage and dog piles and you know, just, you know, junk everywhere, there isn't a whole lot of that. One of the things that like we're concerned with in the neighborhood is really the fact that, you know, it is a woodlot EPOT, and originally, you know, everyone was all excited because you had the house coming in, great look to the house and everything looked good. So I thought we were in good shape with that, with the phase 1 there, if that's what you want to call it. And now, because you got a contractor on board, it seems the contractor is driving the bus, that the contractor really is having a hard time working around the site. So, you know, like all contractors, their general thought is level the whole playing field, just take everything down, tear it all down, start from scratch, makes it easy for them, cheap for them, but nothing gets in their way, so they can run their dozers and their backhoes and everything
So much more.
all over the site. Now, the question I got for you really boils down to a couple things. One is it's the level of disturbance. When you look at the site plan that I'm looking at right now, you know, you're taking down quite a few trees that are way beyond like 20, 30 feet from the house. You know, if you actually put your scale on the drawing itself and look at it, you know, from each corner of the house, your level of disturbance, you're taking substantial amounts of trees that are 50, 80 feet away. That I don't quite understand why. Now I do get, you know, Josh was talking about earlier about, you know, a lot of trees being, you know, diseased, distressed, you know, half dead, whatever. Those are, you know, granted, those need to go. One thing we haven't seen from a neighborhood perspective is a landscaping plan. So it's one thing, you know, like it was mentioned earlier, I don't know who said it, you know, all I see on the plan and all our neighbors just see on the plan is remove. The whole entire clear cut the site. I was out there about 3 hours ago looking around and every single thing's coming out. So we don't know what's going in. In fact, from what we've seen, nothing's going in. Now there may be a big plan for, you know, to reestablish some plantings in there, and that'd be great. But as far as, you know, from our point of view, you know, you got a woodland EPOD, overlay district in place, and it was a pre-approved, everything was approved, why not just stay with that? We haven't seen any reason really to go beyond, except that, the contractor just wants to make it easier for them.
I just jump in there. So actually,
Hold on, Bill.
No, you don't jump in. Tom speaks and we'll ask you questions.
Okay.
Thank you. And two other things we were thinking about is the soil, the stockpile soil. I'm not quite sure what the long-term aspect of that is. Like I say, we don't have all the plans. I don't have all 30, 40, 50 pages, whatever it is on these plans. So we're not quite sure, is the stockpile staying there? The town of Brighton has a drainage ditch right there, and they have a drainage easement through there. So I'm not sure, it's long-term, is that stockpile just going to leach into the drainage ditch, or, what is the long-term plan for that? And then the other thing too, the last piece we're a little concerned is the concrete truck washout station. We're not sure why that's even shown on the plan and shown on the town's right of way. I would think that would be the last thing the town wants on their right of way is a concrete washout pit, destroying your right of way, or, kind of messing up your right of way a little bit. But I think one of the biggest things, like I say, I think it's just the number of trees. I think there's some probably intermediate piece. If you're planting new ones, that would be great. We haven't seen a lot of that. We haven't seen any of that. All we see is removal of 91 trees when, that's way beyond the level of disturbance. And it really doesn't reflect, a lot of what's going on in the neighborhood. We've been a big fan of protecting our neighborhood, preserving the trees, the lots, everything we can. We've been working real hard at it. So that would be kind of what our general thought is here. So with that, that's, I kind of said my piece, but welcome to the neighborhood, Nicholas. We're looking forward to this going in. Hopefully we can get some more trees put in around the house. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Is there anyone else that cares to address this application?
Please raise your hand. Tom, do you know anyone else that wanted to speak by any chance?
No one that I think one person was, but they couldn't arrange the call tonight. One thing just for the town's point of view too, is a lot of people don't see these flyers. You had to put it in out there, but if it was taken down about 2 weeks ago. I took a picture, I sent it to you guys. It was just laying in the woods. So I think a lot of my neighbors weren't quite sure what was going on with the whole process. So they kind of are very interested in it, but didn't get word of this. So, but not that I know of, Ramsey. I don't think anyone was going to call in.
Okay. I'd like to give Nick about a minute to respond to Mr. Hack's comments.
Yes. So the overall excavation is actually, because there's larger tree removals, actually is costing us way more money. This is something that we actually isn't a cost that we are taking on in addition, because again, he is right. There is some garbage in my opinion, but a lot of it is just destruction from, wind and branches and things of that nature. There's a lot of fallen trees on the property. You'll see pictures of that in the Arborist Report. But also on the plan, in the comments, there are some, in the early plans, it does show us that we are planting more trees. Now, obviously, we already expected that if we were going to remove this many trees, we would be planting trees to replace them. And from a neighborhood standpoint, I do understand your point. Your house does have, you said 20 trees. I have a lot of friends in the neighborhood. Some of them have maybe 2, some of them maybe do have 20. They're all different houses. I don't want to speculate who has how many trees. I do think though that once the house is actually there, if we are planting additional trees in the perimeter of the property, all around the property lines, that's really going to kind of fill in where the trees were. So as far as the look, I mean, it's still going to have a lot of trees. You're talking still about 30 plus trees on the property or more, plus the additional trees that we plan to plant. So I do believe that as far as the neighbors go, if you walk down the right of way or you're walking by the house, really it's going to look very similar with, some new trees over time. They're going to have to grow, but A lot of the major trees, big major trees around the perimeter of the house are staying, which, you know, a lot of these trees marked to removal are 6, 5, 8-inch trees that, I mean, they're basically, they don't even have branches, most of them. They're just kind of look like sticks sticking out. So, you know, a lot of those are the ones that are on the plan for removal. So hopefully that alleviates some of the concern, or at least your concern, and maybe a couple of the neighbors, that it is our intention to plant some more trees and keep it, you know, in line with the rest of the neighborhood, and preserve as much as we can, but also maintain a yard and a safe environment for our house.
Okay, thank you. Nick, I appreciate your thoughts, but the entire purpose of a woodlot E-pod has nothing to do with neighborhood aesthetics. So I personally am going to discount any of your comments regarding trying to make this more aesthetically compatible with the neighborhood. That is simply not the function or the reason for an E-pod. Secondly, the reason for leaving trees, even if they're dead and lying on the ground, they offer environmental benefit. So I understand your desire to have a manicured yard, but again, that is not the reason we have environmental protection overlay districts for woodlots, steep slopes, and wetlands. They have entirely different functions than to serve just your purpose of having a lot to build a single family home on. So your aesthetic argument and compatibility with the neighborhood is discounted completely on my part. But as far as a compromise on this, I would think that there is some rationale for dead or diseased trees to be removed at the time of when it's easier for the machinery to get in there and do it. I do not buy any argument for the convenience of your contractor. I do not buy any argument for the protection of, you know, removing a tree because it will potentially be damaged and die in 5 years. That's why we have tree protection plans, and that's why we will make sure that you follow it. And if your contractor needs to use a different piece of equipment to move around, then he's going to have to use a different piece of equipment. And if you need to relocate your stockpile, topsoil pile once or twice and reestablish your erosion control measures, you're going to have to do that. Like I say, I think I would like to see this tree report. And I do agree that there are probably some of these trees that can come down if they are, in fact, as you and Josh say, diseased and dead. If they are not diseased and dead, and they're in substantially good condition, I don't see a need to remove an additional 41 trees or 42 trees because it's, you know, an aesthetic reason. I would be willing to participate in a site visit to actually review the plan, look at these trees, and make a determination on what might go and what might not. Now, Ramsey and David Dollinger will tell me if that is an appropriate approach or not. To Mr. Hack, the concrete washout area will not remain. That is a standard requirement of an erosion and control plan, erosion and sediment control plan, and certainly a condition of a SWIP. I don't know what anybody else has to feel. That's my points. Don't know what anyone else thinks. Laura?
I don't have any additional comments.
David?
I pretty much agree with everything you said.
John Osowski?
Yeah, I agree that we need more information and more information. You'd like to see that tree report to have a better idea.
Thank you. Pam?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said, that we need more information on this.
Jason?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Bill.
All right. All right. Ramsey, David Dollinger, any final comments?
No, there's definitely, we can talk about it during the discussion, specifically what information that you'll want from them. There's the SWIT, there's the grading, there's a landscape mitigation plan, and then you guys can discuss if you want any modifications to this plan or anything else that you may want to, have revised. And we can do that during the discussions. And I guess, Bill, the only other thing I would say, we just want to check one more time if there's anyone else that would like to speak.
That said, is there anyone else that cares to address this application?
Not doing this.
Okay.
Raise your hand.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next application.
I'm calling.
The next application will be 9P0220, application of Teamsters Local number 118 and D. Pasquale Construction, final site plan approval to construct 2,600 square foot building addition and expand the parking lot on property at 130 Metro Park.
Joe Jacobs, I believe, is going to speak for that.
Do we want to combine this with?
Yes, with the 7P, Bill, I'm sorry. You want to combine the preliminary application, which is 7P ND1-20, is combined with 9P0220 for preliminary and final site plan approval.
Very good. Joe, welcome.
Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon. Good evening.
Joe, do you have anyone else that would like to join you?
We do not.
Okay.
So Joe Jacobs, I'm representing EDR in Rochester, 274 North Goodman Street, Rochester, New York, 14607. We are representing D. Pasquale Construction for this project, and the owner is obviously Teamsters Local 118. About 2 months ago, or 2 or 3 months ago, we came to the board for preliminary site plan approval, which the application was tabled. And the reason was simple. We had two easements. We had two variances that we needed to seek to get. And we had consequently 2 weeks ago, we received those two variances. The two variances were for site or for coverage, for impervious coverage. The lot previously, or the lot when this planning board had originally reviewed it, was approximately 73% impervious area, or 73% coverage. And for the zoning board, we attempted to reduce the coverage and increase the green space as much as possible. We were able to get it down to 69%. The allowable in the district is 65%. The second variance was for parking and driveway setback to connect to the existing asphalt area. We have is obviously an existing non-conformance. However, you may notice on it's actually the west side of the site, but it's planned up towards the top of the plan. We carved out a chunk of space, impervious area for green space and for subsequently for snow storage too as well. So we hit kind of three birds with one stone: increased our green space, added snow storage, and also we're able to reduce as much of our impervious coverage as possible. Since then, since the the last time you had seen this submission to as well, we've had some, one of the big questions was what we were going to do, what we were going to need to do for water in terms of, there's a building code, section 73, that requires projects of a certain cost in relation to the actual worth of the building, that there needs to be upgrades in terms of building sprinklers. The applicant, the cost for the applicant did exceed that threshold, so consequently, fire service is going to be provided or installed in addition to the domestic water service to essentially sprinkle the building. We have also added a dumpster enclosure per conservation board and per, I believe it was the planning board's comment too as well, that you would be looking for some sort of a dumpster enclosure that would house an existing dumpster on site. So we put that next to the shed. You can see that plan bottom right, but it's actually the northeast corner of the proposed parking expansion. That's tucked in next to the shed and also behind existing wooded area that is on the adjacent property. So you'll have screening there. In terms of plantings, we kept the same 3 river birches in the back, along with the I believe it's the tupelo. We've added, at the request of the conservation board, an additional tree out front. In the front, as you approach the building from when you approach the building from the east side along Metro Park, there's a flagpole and there's the signage on the building, and that's on the easterly side of the building. So we didn't want to obscure that side of the building. So the only place really that we were able to find that made sense in terms of symmetry and for visibility was to provide another linden tree to match the 6-inch linden that is just to the west of the main 12-inch large linden. Yep, right there. That's the main one. So now it'll be symmetrical, and what's the rule of thumb, Bill? It's never an even number. So we have three lindens in a row, and consequently, we actually have another proposed planting because of the installation of a water service, that fire service. We had to remove 2 existing shrubs. In lieu of those 2 shrubs, we are showing an Amelanchier just to provide some more color than just a shrub, an evergreen shrub. And it also provides some additional buffering to the existing parking that's there. And that is a majority of it. We're working to, we've addressed a majority of the town of Brighton's engineers' comments. We've been working with Everett. We have some more updates for him with regard to additional approvals that we need to seek specifically for Monroe County Pure Water's master plan review, and also for Water Authority because of that fire service. But we have reached out. We have a fire protection consultant on staff that has been signed up for doing the hydraulics. So it's really more making sure we get the applications into those utility agencies and authorities. I think that's about it.
Okay. Thank you. I listened into the variance application. I don't have any further questions. Does the board, are there any questions from the board?
I'm all set, thanks.
I'm good.
I'm all
Yeah,
set.
This is John. I'm good.
David?
I'm okay. I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Ramsey, do you have any questions? Can't believe we lost Ramsey. Did we lose Ramsey?
Oh, I'm sorry. Joe, could you just explain the exterior lighting that's being proposed real quick? Joe's muted.
Hello,
Here you go,
thank
Joe.
you. Yes, the photometrics, the exterior lighting, there are two wall packs. They are per our last meeting, I believe it was billed at 3,000 K. So we did keep it at that level, and consequently, you know, the photometrics are 0.5 of a foot candle, 1/10 of a foot candle, about 10 feet away. So very low level light, and they'll be above the two doors to the proposed addition.
That's all I have, Bill. Thank you.
All right. We'll open it up to the audience. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to address this application? Please raise your hand. Ramsey or Jeff, seeing anybody?
Don't see anybody.
I'll ask one more time. Anybody wish to address this application? This is for Teamsters Local 118 at Metro Park. All right. Joe, thank you.
Thank you all very much, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you. I believe that is it for our public hearings.
That is correct.
Ramsey, do you want to go back and resolve these or move on to, why don't we go back and,
We'll do signs last, but Bill, if you could just go through the applications that have been adjourned in
Yep.
case any of the people that are on are waiting for those. If I
yes,
could do that. Applications, 1 second. 8P0120, the application of John Gear, 2171 West Henrietta Road, has been adjourned to the October 21st meeting. Application 8P0220, application of Passero Associates for 2816 Monroe Avenue, has been adjourned until the October 21st meeting. Application 8P0320, application of Passero Associates for 2125 Monroe Avenue, has been adjourned to the October 21st meeting. And last, application 9P NV1-20, application of the Baptist Bible Temple located at 1075 Clover Street, has been adjourned to the October 21st meeting.
okay, thank you. All right, let's go back to review our applications. We have two of them. First is Nicholas Leonardo, 9P01-20. Let's see, I have the report here somewhere, but I gotta find it. Has anybody got it up so that I don't struggle here? Are we calling for a table or?
Yes, I have it down if the board entertains a tabling application.
Mhm.
If that is something the board wants to do, I would suggest including, among other things by the board, the following items. A stormwater pollution prevention plan to be submitted by the applicant. A revised grading plan will be submitted to the town that takes into consideration increases in disturbance caused by the additional removal of trees. Provide a survey of the trees to be removed over the site over 5 inches in diameter identified by species, condition, and worthiness for preservation. The survey will be prepared by a qualified consulting forester, arborist, or horticulturist. I have emailed out the report that he sent me in August, everyone.
Yeah, I see it.
You should have that. You can take a look at that. That's not exactly to the code, but it might start providing you the information where you will see that a lot of the trees that are proposed, they're due to damage during construction. That the applicant should submit a robust landscaping plan to mitigate the considerable loss to the vegetation now being proposed. And there's a number of them. The fifth condition, the project and its construction entrance shall meet the New York State standards and specifications for erosion control and settlement. Number 6, the contractor should designate a member of his or her firm to be responsible for monitoring the erosion control structures, tree protection and preservation throughout the construction. All trees to be saved shall be protected with orange construction fencing placed at the drip line or distance greater than the drip line. Trees shall be pruned, water fertilized prior to, during, and after construction. Materials and equipment storage should not be allowed in the fenced areas. Maintenance of the landscaping planting shall be guaranteed for 3 years. Number 9, any contractor or individual involved in the planting, maintenance, or removal of trees shall comply with the requirements of town's excavation and clearing, Chapter 66, trees, Chapter 175, and any other pertinent regulations, and shall be registered and shall carry insurance required by Chapter 175 of the Comprehensive Development Regulations. Condition number 10, prior to the issuance of any building permit, a letter of credit shall be provided to the town to cover the cost of materials and installation of all landscaping to ensure that the landscaping conforms to the approved plans and that the landscaping survives in a healthy condition. Condition number 11, erosion control measures shall be in place prior to disturbance. And number 12, a letter memo in response to the planning board and town engineering comments and conditions shall be submitted. Here's 12. I guess the question I have for the board, is there anything else that you want to ask them to do? Like submit a revised plan with less trees proposed for removal, only trees that were within 30 feet of the structure? I'm not sure.
I wouldn't use a dimension from the structure. I would, well, first off, let me ask you this, Ramsey. Can they pull a building permit based on the original approval while this application is pending?
Yes, and they have.
And they have, okay.
Yeah.
So he could in fact be clearing right now any of the trees that were approved to be removed on the first approved plan.
That's correct.
Okay. So we're at this point not holding him up from building his house.
To the best of my knowledge, no, we are not.
Okay. All right. And we could entertain a review of the trees that are dead or diseased, but it would seem that this is just going way beyond the intent of the EPOD to remove an additional 41 trees. And like I said, you know, if he came back with a revised plan to leave all of the 41 trees and only remove the dead and diseased and have a corresponding, whether a SWIP becomes necessary or a modified erosion and sediment control plan and a revised planting plan, you know, then I would entertain that. I just having a very hard time with 91 trees.
So it sounds like you're asking for another condition that they provide a plan that shows an alternative removal plan.
It could be a recommendation to show an alternative a plan, yes, with only presenting, you know, dead or diseased trees, significantly diseased trees.
I think the issue was if he was just removing dead and diseased trees, I don't know if I would have made him come back, to be honest with you, Bill.
Right.
That's an exempt activity in woodlots.
Yeah.
If the trees are dead, I mean, I've been doing that. I've been going out on sites. There's ash trees all over the place. And we will allow people to go in and take down ash trees and woodlots if they're dead and dying. And they give us the report. The report he has submitted is more or less they're going to be damaged during construction. You'll see that in the report for many of the trees.
Yeah,
And it looks like it's because they've expanded the area is how I'm understanding it.
that's just not a justification to remove a tree.
Well, let's ask for a revised plan then with only the dead and significantly diseased trees removed.
Yes. But in the meantime, he can proceed with construction. That was irrelevant. So you've already said that. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
So
Yeah, I'm good.
another requirement is the applicant shall submit an alternative tree removal plan showing only dead or dying trees to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Or only dead and dying trees removed in addition to the original approval.
Right.
Thank you. I
I
think
guess-
that was missing.
Yeah, I have a question. So what is the difference in the construction between these two plans? Is it the same building footprint?
It's the same building footprint, but the clearing of the property where he
Right,
wants to
yeah, I
remove
got
the
that.
trees is much larger.
So in theory, then the reason why he's asking for all these more trees is just a different builder, or did he miss it the first time? You know.
It started with the builder. I don't know the whole history.
And then my question is, I mean, not to make him come back 10 times or something, but is there an assumption that he's already requested the removal in the first instance for all the trees that are close? I don't know, you look at 72, so it's 10 feet from the building, it's going to be removed. Is it being removed because it's dead and old, or is it being removed because of its proximity? I mean, I guess it's like, I'd almost look at this plan that I'm looking at and say, explain to me why you want these, you know, each tree, is it location or diseased, or, you know what I mean?
The ones that are close, David, they're saying that the construction activities will substantially hurt the trees during the process and will not make it. Excuse me.
And we are asking for the information you just mentioned.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think it's going to be a process, though. But I guess it's unavoidable. That's fine.
Yeah, there's one thing if his contractor's saying, hey, these trees that were originally in the construction area that we said were going to be saved are now going to be damaged. That's one thing. But the trees that are being removed are going way out of that. And I think that's the issue for everyone. Is there any other comments that we want to add to this?
I can't think of any others.
So a 13th item, if I could just say it for the steno, the applicant shall submit an alternative tree removal plan showing only dead or dying trees to be removed in addition to the trees that were previously approved by the planning board.
Correct.
I guess maybe have a motion, Bill, or?
Please, is anybody?
I move the board tables application 9P0120 based on the testimony given and plan submitted. The 13 items of additional information outlined in the planning board report are requested to make determination of significance and to have a complete application.
The hearing, David, do you want to have the hearing closed or kept open? Kept open?
Well, if I don't close it, it stays open, right?
Yep, that's right. Just making sure. Hearing's kept open. Motion by Fader.
I'll second.
Civiletti seconds. Member Price,
Aye.
Fader,
Aye.
Civiletti,
Aye.
Delaney,
Aye.
Sowski.
Aye.
Application is tabled.
All right. Thank you. Can we combine applications 9P0220 and 7PND1-20?
If you would, I'd appreciate it if you could.
All right,
They were heard together. They can be approved together.
all right.
I'll move we close the public hearing.
I'll second. Ramsey, is an all in favor good enough?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I move the board approves the application 7PNB120 and 9P0220 based on the testimony given, plan submitted, and the 25 conditions, and the board adopts the negative declaration prepared by town staff.
I'll second.
Second Price.
Yep. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Ramsey.
Member Osowski,
Aye.
Babcock Steiner,
Aye.
Delaney,
Aye.
Saletti,
Aye.
Vader,
Aye.
Price. Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Let's, what do we got? 2 signs, Ramsey?
Yes, we do. The sign that you are seeing for application 1588, that sign that you're seeing right now is the revised sign that addresses the planning, the architectural review board comments. But the sign needs a sign variance from the zoning board of appeals. So I would recommend to this board that the application be tabled so that they can get the required sign variance from the zoning board of appeals.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Price moved and Fader, was it? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Member Price,
Aye.
Fader,
Aye.
Simoletti,
Aye.
Delaney. Delaney.
She's muted.
Aye, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Osowski,
Aye.
motion passes.
Yeah, a t-shirt says you're muted. Or stay muted. Anyway. Okay, what's our other sign?
The next application is sign 1589 for 1882 South Whitten Avenue. It's one of the buildings in the back.
Yeah.
The zoning, the ARB recommended approved as presented. I would recommend that you approve it as recommended. If you feel in agreement with that.
Could you just tell me what the blue and red things are on the left side?
They're like little like affiliates. They have different clinics within the clinic.
Oh, I see it.
Blow it up, Jeff, maybe a little bit so Bill can see that.
Okay, I see. You would say fibroid.
There's vein, vascular, and fibroid centers make up the clinic.
All right.
All right, but what actually is the vein clinic? Is this some sort of varicose surgery center?
That I don't know. I don't know that much about them, Laura.
I believe
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's considered a surgery center because you have to have usually.
it is part of what they do, though. I know they do that kind of stuff, work.
Do they? Okay.
What was that?
They do work on varicose veins. I don't know if they might do some other things beyond that, but I know that's part of it.
Okay.
All right. I'll move approval as recommended by the ARB.
I'll second that.
It's Pater, second. Price made the motion.
Yes.
Member Osowski,
Aye.
Babcock, Steiner,
Aye.
Delaney,
Aye.
Simoletti,
Aye.
Pater.
Aye.
That's it.
Forgot me.
Huh. All right, thank you, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Billy, you want to talk tomorrow or?
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Everyone, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See you next month.
Okay.
Night.